Hi, my name is Brian Deck, and I am sitting at Narwhal Music Studios in Chicago today, here to talk to you about how to creatively use drum overhead and room mics when mixing in the box. This first song that I have up here is by Chicago band Moritat. It's a song called Promises. On this song, we wanted very tight and present drums for about the first 2/3 of the song, and then we wanted to gradually grow them to where they sounded roomier and more powerful. And I'm going to play you some of the front of the song so that you can hear how sort of tight they sound at the very top. So there's a lot of intricate drumming going on. We wanted that to be articulate and pointed and present. As the song goes on, we get to sort of what is the beginning of the second half of the song, and I found that we had recorded scratch vocal mics, which the singers didn't really sing into. By the time we got the take, they didn't need to hear the singing anymore to get through the song. So they'd stopped singing, and those mics were sitting in the drum room recording still. And it turns out that they sounded pretty cool on the kit. So you actually can hear a little bit of humming in the background, but here's what those scratch vocal mics sound like when they come in. A little bit of singing, but not enough that is going to interfere with the actual vocal tracks. I'm going to solo up the drums along with those scratch vocal mics. You'll hear a couple seconds of the drums, and then you'll hear those scratch vocal mics come in, and you'll hear what they do to the presence and the sound of the drums. So they're panned at roughly, I'd say, 9 and 3 o'clock, and they give a greater sense of space when they come in, but they don't wash it out. They're still pretty controlled. We recorded a separate room mic, which hasn't been in the mix yet. When that room mic comes in, these scratch vocal mics go away, and I'll play it for you so you can hear it soloed up, and then I'll show you what I've done to the room mic to get the sound that's there. See, here it gets quite a bit roomier. It's not a big sounding room, but the room mics are very present when they come in. I say room mics. There was actually only one room mic, and you can hear that something very stereo happens. So the first thing I did on that room mic was instantiate the Universal Audio 1176 compressor. And it looks like I've got all buttons pushed in, so that is very limiting, and let's see what kind of gain reduction I have going on. A lot, and it's doing more than the meter is probably showing, because that's what happens with the real physical unit. Now, I wanted it to be stereo, so I did a fake stereo thing. I put in a stereo delay, a digi stereo delay, 18 milliseconds on one side, 22 milliseconds on the other side, 74% wet on both sides, so there's still some center image to that. Here's what the microphone sounds without the compression, without the stereo. Pretty cool, but here's the compressor and the stereo delay. Noticeably larger when you do the fake stereo thing. It's probably worth mentioning also that you can see when this room mic comes in, there's a mono overhead right there that goes away. The room mic has a fair amount of cymbal in it, and we just didn't need a lot of extra cymbal. So, that's another thing you do when you're mixing. You're making decisions, prioritizing one element over another, and that seemed to need to happen in order to make it possible to make that move to a bigger sound. Let me put it in context with the rest of the music, and I'll start it playing where the scratch vocal mics are, and then it'll move to where the room mic comes in. Gets big and powerful. They're a trio, and you can hear it really breathe. Like, that is believably a performance by 3 people in the same room together, and I think that sounds really cool. Okay, for this second example of how to creatively use overheads and room mics in drum mixing, again, I'm working with the band Moritat. This song is called Selfish Ones. There's a middle section, a quiet section in this song, where we wanted to go from a fairly natural sound of the drums to something that's been really squashed and controlled dynamically. And I wanted to hear that compressor whooshing and doing its thing. Here's the regular overhead channel. I just duplicated it and sliced it out so this middle section is the only part that has this Fairchild compressor on it. And I'll play for you how much that is compressing. So you can see that's a lot of gain reduction. It's metering 6 or 7 dB, and it's probably more because the meter is not as fast as the tubes inside it are. And then I'm also sending that highly compressed signal to this plate reverb, the EMT 140 by UAD. Very realistic modeling of the classic EMT plate reverb. And that was originally instantiated for vocal reverb, I believe, which I then mostly abandoned and just end up using it on the drum overhead. Let me play for you how that sits in the mix and what it does to the feeling of spaciousness. You may have noticed when it gets into this back half of the song, that mono overhead that we talked about in the previous song comes in, and the room mic comes in. And again, the room mic is hitting the 1176, and I'm doing the stereo delay. So we were doing similar maneuvers in several songs to affect the perspective of the drums. Okay, and I have the API channel on the mono overhead when it comes in. Looks like it's compressing. Let's see how much. That's interesting. So I am dumping mid and low and compressing a little bit. The overall effect of the plug-in is that it sounds a little bit compressed, distinctly brighter, but I'm not doing that by brightening it. I'm not boosting high frequencies. I'm cutting low frequencies and bringing the whole signal up. So here it is with no processing. And here's the processing. Really taking it from sounding like this to sounding like this, I think was the basic intent there. It doesn't become as overtly powerful and roomy and forward as the previous song, but it definitely makes a difference in the perspective of the drums. All right, let's hear another example. All right, for the third example of how to use interesting processing and decision making on overheads and room mics, I've got a song called Vinegar by Chicago band Wreath of Hogs. And I am not actually using a room mic or an overhead to do what's been done here. We have a microphone here. It's a microphone from the 70s. It's a Shure Brothers SM82, and it's an old announcer mic. It's a dynamic microphone that has its own power supply. It doesn't need a power supply. If you just plug it in, it'll pass signal like any dynamic microphone. But the power supply is for a built-in limiter on the microphone that is just insanely broadcasty, squashy. So we use this as a separate weird mic on the drums frequently, and Wreath of Hogs used it on all their drum recordings, and we found different cool ways to use it. So the beginning of this song is all that microphone. It was placed, if I'm sitting at the drum kit, I shouldn't move away from the microphone, but if I'm sitting at the drum kit, I've got the snare drum right here, the kick drum is right here, toms, cymbals, hi-hat, right? Playing like this. That microphone comes in over the top of the kick drum, pointing at the snare drum, try to get it sort of equidistant from the two toms, and it does a pretty good job of picking up the whole kit. And the internal limiter does the rest of the work for you. So here's the beginning of the song featuring that microphone. Pretty cool. There is some plug-in shenanigans going on. I've got the API Vision channel instantiated here. I am boosting 6 dB at 5K, and it looks like I felt like I needed more compression. So let's see what that's doing. A lot. Bypass. Pretty cool all on its own. That 6 dB at 5K really gets the snare more sizzling, and you know, that compressor is clearly stomping on it. You could also hear that I had some dub style delays sending. There's the send each time. This first one seems more audible. So that looks like it happens at regular intervals through the intro of the song. The rest of the drum mics on the drum bus, you can see that they come in at about minus 7.5 dB and gradually fade up. And when the crotch mic, which it's been called here, stops right there, the drum bus goes up another 2.5 dB and takes over the song. So I'm going to play it from about right here. We'll hear it roll through there, and you'll hear the perspective switch as you get through the first verse.
I scratch my head for weeks until it changes my part. I still don't know who I was cleaning for. Another, a not her. See what I did there? Crack the window, air the place out. Maybe she will too.
So you can hear right there the drums become a lot more focused and normal. And that was a really interesting and fun mixed decision to make. So those are some of the kinds of things that I like to do. I like to prioritize what's going to take the forefront, and sometimes you need to make room for that. Here on this song, I muted all the other drum mics up to a certain point. There's other things that could be done. You could be using reverb, you could be flanging things, you could be panning them around and making them travel. The idea is to open up your mind and try different things and be open to the idea of the perspective on your drum mix shifting and changing to serve the song, hopefully, not just to serve your curiosity to have fun while you're mixing, but to help make the song effective and engaging. Thanks for being here today, and hope this helped open up your mind on various things to do, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.